The name's JonMac, pro fighter, published author, public speaker. And for the last few years, I've been living life in a van. Meet Appa, my Japanese-inspired tea house on wheels. Welcome in. Coffee, tea, whiskey. That's how it begins. My podcast. The one where we sit and talk about life. Thoughts, stories, human things. You know human things. The things that make us human. If that's your cup of tea, then welcome in. Drinks on me. Come on in. Welcome to Appa.
Welcome to Appa.
I don't know what you just did, but you look like you did something pretty cool in front of the camera.
Yeah, that's great. That's
I
good
guess
stuff.
I guess I'll have to see that in post.
For the gram.
Yeah, for the gram. Cool, man. So we are here. Can I get you a drink? Water, coffee, tea?
Coffee would be amazing.
Coffee would be amazing.
Yes, I like to have coffee after my coffee.
Yeah, me too. All right.
One is just not enough.
You know, and coffee is just so delicious.
Yeah.
You know, the essentials, coffee and rice, you know, because
Yeah.
I'm Asian like that.
I feel like coffee is a ritual. Also, it is definitely my drug of choice.
Yes, I'm with you on that. I mean, you know, other drugs are cool too, but that's another podcast. Coffee for sure is a ritual though. Like, I feel like when I first started getting into coffee, actually when I first started getting into coffee, it was when I was living in Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I was having really good coffee and I'm like, oh.
You're in Costa Rica?
Yeah.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah, so I lived in Costa Rica for a year and a half with my ex-wife. At the time, she was my fiance.
Yeah.
And we moved out there and we were teaching out in Costa Rica. Oh, don't mind that magnet sticking to my fridge. Yeah, we lived in Costa Rica for a year and a half. And the lady who ran the school was a French lady. It was called the European School. It was like a private school. Mm-hmm. She was married to an American who was part of Brit Coffee, which is like the most gourmet coffee or like very popular in like Central America.
Yeah.
So then we just literally had the best coffee in our like office, and you know, I'm just like, I just get free like badass coffee all the time.
And you get a little spoiled.
Yeah, and then you get spoiled and you're like, okay, now I guess I really like coffee.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I mean, I worked on a Starbucks for like when I was in high school for a couple years.
Fuck
I was
yeah.
a coffee master or whatever, which basically means you took 2 like virtual classes. So it's like from that region, is that still that kind of like mild but like tropical kind of blend your favorite?
Yes, like the blend that we're having today is actually one of my favorite blends. Mm-hmm. It's Phil's Coffee, right?
Nice.
From the Bay Area,
yeah.
our hometown.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about later. Phil's Coffee. This is Filtered Soul. It's a medium blend. Uh-huh. It's caramel, maple, and hazelnut are like the notes.
Nice.
Yeah, but talking about ritual, like
This is very Japanese tea ceremony, by the way.
you know,
The way you set it up.
I'm trying to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and
like
I'm
you're
not,
like, I can't use a paper brush because it's not tea, but I'm gonna get a brush.
Yeah, like I'm glad you didn't ask for tea yet because I'm not really ready for that. Like I want to be able to do like the whole matcha experience. Yeah. But if you would ask tea, like, I got some tea bags. I'm like, I'm white belt right now. Yeah. I'm white belt right now. But yeah, doing all this, like, it's cool. It's like I make it part of like my morning routine. It's like it takes me a little bit longer than to just if you are to have a Keurig or a pod or whatnot. Mm-hmm. You know, but the whole Zen vibe, bro.
Still one of my favorite coffees because I like mild blends too. I mean, honestly, I'll just drink whatever. Like Folgers, instant coffee. Like I'm like the opposite of a snob.
I like how you go straight to Folgers.
But if I have a preference, when I was in Saudi Arabia the first time, I mean both times, the Arabic coffee I just like completely fell in love with. So it's like the way they do the coffee bean is a little bit different, and then they add saffron to it, which over there is much cheaper than it is over here. So I got like a stupid amount of Arabic coffee and then saffron from over there when I came back, and I was just drinking like nothing but that, just like pretending I was just better than people. Joking.
Bro, you don't have to pretend. You're better than people.
But if you like mild coffee, like we should definitely try that sometime.
Fuck yeah.
It's really good.
Down for that.
Got your pour over. That looks like a Chemex brand.
Yeah, I actually have this one too. It's like a
Yeah, that's basically what I use.
You get the most like flavor out of the bean, but the drip on this is so slow.
Yeah.
We basically run the
This
whole
is like a 20-minute podcast of just that.
we run the whole
Just
podcast
waiting.
right here. I actually
Just
wouldn't even
waiting.
sit down. We just end up talking. I'll just stand, guys. Don't worry about it.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I got through so many phases of like, okay, I'm just drinking coffee, or like I think the times where I'm like sleeping, if I'm just doing tea is like when I'm probably like at my most functional as a human being, and then just, balanced. But yeah, it's pretty much just like, do I drink my energy drink before my coffee or after my coffee? Let's mix it up today.
Bro, you go energy drink and coffee? That's a straight, you're ready to coach at that point.
Yeah.
Like you're full on. We're going.
Yeah.
I'm up, we're ready to go.
Almost at the end of the season. I'm almost there.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna pause you for a second just because it's gonna be loud.
Yeah. It's therapeutic.
You know, a little
It's like a sound
ASMR.
machine. Oh man.
I hope you like your coffee black because I maybe have some honey packets from Popeyes if you need a sweetener.
That's perfect. Yeah.
I got no cream. Yeah. I got some oat milk.
I thought the main thing is like shitty coffee requires a lot of cream. Good coffee does not require cream.
Agreed.
People are like, oh, you got to use MCT oil or coconut oil. I'm like, all right, take it easy. Guy who listened to podcasts with Bullet Coffee on Joe Rogan, take it easy.
It's always funny how people like will hear something. Doesn't even really matter what it is.
Yeah.
You hear it once and like people don't even do like any further research. Like they just take everybody's word for it.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard it on this. Like,
Well,
okay.
I feel like the majority of us are just bouncing around our lives, like looking at the Hallmark section for cards, and then just like picking out cards and be like, yeah, that sounds like something I'd say. And then they hand it to somebody. And it's like, that's what we do with our daily lives, right? We like consume media. We're like, that sounds like something I'd say. That sounds real smart. And then you just like memorize and then regurgitate. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely do that.
It's fun.
Yeah, human beings, bro.
Human beings.
This is who we are.
Yeah. If you get mad at it, it's kind of unnecessary. I feel like it's just who we are,
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the water's going to take some time to boil, so we can obviously get into it now.
Yeah.
And we'll just pick up where we left off or wherever we leave off.
Yeah.
But you were saying about being like towards the tail end of season.
Yeah.
When is that for you? When does the end?
Kind of depends what you calculate. So basically the last fight for our dormant fighters here is Friday. So we have Jade and Christian both fighting for Epic. And then we have Dean, who's always pro debut for Baraka in Vegas at like the Red Rock Casino. So those are people that like are at the gym all the time. And then I would also consider Angela, who's a pro fighter from Iowa. She just flew into last night to come train with us for a week. And she's just like a good friend of ours. We'll fly out there. She'll fly over here.
Oh, sick.
She's just like, she's not on the team, but she's on the team.
Right.
So we're going to corner her in San Jose. She has a fight night at the Tech.
Oh, that's okay.
That's going to be December, I think 14th or 15th or something
I think it's
that.
the 14th. Yeah,
14th,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll be out there cornering for her. So I would still consider her like the last fight of the season. But for our dormant people that are always here, basically this Friday, and then we're done for the rest of the year. Because we had a couple fights like Jordan's fell through. He was supposed to be fighting in Miami or Thailand, but they both fell through. And then Jake's fight fell through, so it kind of shortened our
Jake's
season
fight
a little
fell
bit.
through.
Yeah.
Dang. That's supposed to be first week of December?
First week of December. We were super excited. He looks so good too.
Yeah, I know. He like when I was talking to him, like he's excited. He's really excited for this right now.
Yeah. He went hard the week afterwards, I think to make a point, and then took like a week and a half off. And I was like gonna give him some space just because I know how frustrating it is.
Yeah.
And then he came in yesterday and we talked for like 15 minutes afterwards, and we're like, I get it, bro. I'm like real frustrated too. So I was like, you're a priority. I was like, there's a couple of you guys that have been not on the shelf, but like we haven't found fights for. It's like 100% your priority. Like weekly check-ins, like we'll get you a fight, or at least we're on the same page and we're aligned with our mission here.
What is your guys' like projection for like you hope to get them fighting when? January, February?
I mean, ASAP. I mean, if ours is pretty much, it's like anything in life, right? Where especially when it's like your first pro debut, it's like we're basically going to buckshot everybody until somebody gives us a yes.
Yeah.
So basically what we talked about is like Tuesday we'll go through and we'll Excel spreadsheet doc like, okay, here's everybody that we make contacts with, here's possibilities, here's the dates we're looking at, add more, every week recontact. And so it's pretty much just cold calling and then trying to find something.
Wow.
So we have like our connections we're pretty close to, and then we have connections that we are not close to. So
Right.
we have to talk to everybody.
Yeah. Wow.
So I was like, okay, what are our parameters? Like, when can you take a fight? You know, how much time do you need for the cut? Where are your blackout zones where you can't take a fight during this period? Okay, everything else is on. You know, barring extraneous circumstances.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we'll get something, but I know he's like hungry. You know how it is.
I know how it is.
Yeah.
I do know how it is. Yeah.
But yeah, so our fight season, for the most part, finishes this Friday. But we do have one more fight we're going to be traveling for in San Jose in December 14th.
What would you
That's
consider in a full year? What is your peak or like fight? I mean, you talk about season.
Yeah.
But so it ends in December because like nothing really happens during the holidays.
Yeah.
And then it picks back up when?
Yeah, we try to take breaks. So I think the next fight that we have is going to be end of January. So I would say for like in general, we just make up the term seasons, but it's not like the actual season.
Right.
So it's like for us, we pretty much have 3 fight seasons, and then we'll try and take like 4 to 5 weeks off. You know, high priority people, if you have like a juicy fight that like we have to take, then we'll take it anyways. But for the general portion of the team, people that are generally active, we try and black out time so the coaches can take a break, we can retool. We found that like...
Do you ever take breaks?
Well, we did. Like during the summertime, in terms of travel, right?
Yeah, like you, bro.
No, I don't take breaks. And I don't want to take breaks, right? I mean, I think like there's times where I want to work less, I want to see my kids, I want to sleep, but I'm still working.
Yeah.
So like I'll cut down to like 50 hours a week, and then that's a break for me. I'll try and just make sure I'm getting good sleep, spending quality time with the kids.
Yeah.
But also break for me is like, the break implies rejuvenation. And so rejuvenation for me is like seeing my kids, putting my time in, making sure it's not like, oh, this time I have to make time for it. It's like time to do nothing, time to,
Right.
But I think for the team perspective, like I feel most rejuvenated. And I talked about this with somebody on a previous podcast where she was like, what room do you go to that's like your, not safe space, but like your kind of like where you regain your energy? And for me, it's like kind of my like office, or like my mentality of an office, where it's just like I'm going over film, studying new techniques. I'm going over like previous film from the seasons, figuring out what we did wrong or what we did right.
Sure.
Coming up with new ideas for the future, because every season's going to get tougher, every season's going to get bigger, every season's going to be more pressure.
Right.
So if I'm not excited about what we're bringing to the table, then it's kind of like more about the stress. But I want to be excited about new things we're bringing to the table, new logistics that we're doing for the team, new
Right.
ways we're going to make it easier on ourselves or be more successful.
Yeah.
And so I think we did a really good job with me and the coaches doing that for this previous season. And so that's why it was like not so stressful, and it was fun, and we had a great time doing it, and we were really successful. But I want to make sure it's always changing, and like that success is going to create problems, so we have to get ahead of those problems before they come up.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically just like fighting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same
It's
thing.
the same, exact
It's the
same
same
thing. It's just the scale's different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is probably the most like blended we've had, from like MMA to Muay Thai. And then with pros and amateurs, like it's been a lot more heavy with the pros lately. So that creates both good things and bad things, but fun things overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do so much Muay Thai typically that, I feel like having Nick around right now, and with the resources we have for the MMA, it's like, that's been super fun.
Yeah.
It's been super fun.
Yeah, Nick's a cool dude. Nick's a cool dude. Yeah.
He's great. He's such a gem, dude.
Yeah. No,
I am so fortunate that the timing worked out, that we were able to get in more time with him.
Yeah.
And me and him have had a kind of a long relationship, but recently a lot more, kind of like you.
Yeah.
A lot more like close, because it's just been like frequency.
Yeah.
So it's just been great getting to know him, picking his brain. Like he's like so chill and so data technically driven, but also a conqueror in his own way. And it's like, I just feel like that's why we just vibe really well. Because it's got to be both, right? If you're just really technical and you want to like make your watch over here, and then when fight time comes, you're like, I just kind of want to go over here and like fiddle with my watch. Then it's like, okay, cool, you're really good in that zone, but like when it's time to like fight, then it's like you don't have the same energy.
Right.
And some guys the opposite. They just want to be in the mix and take the pictures and do the fight and yell and scream. But when it comes to making the watch and figuring out the details, they're like, I don't really want to do that, I want to like talk about it, right?
Right.
Yeah, but he's just such a good blend of all of it that it's like he just feels like he's been a part of the team for a decade.
How long has he been part of his team?
Like 2 months. No, I'm joking. It's been, I don't know. It feels like years, but yeah, it's probably only been like 6 months, almost a year now.
Really?
Maybe a year. I have no idea. I feel like I should know that.
It's all right. Time disappears when you're on the mat, though.
Yeah, it really
and you're just in it.
Yeah.
You're just in it.
Yeah. And we were working with fighters too during Alliance time. We were kind of going back and forth and working with fighters collectively too. So I guess it kind of depends on what you would consider part of the team.
Right. Because I'm sure that's how you guys connected with the whole Alliance thing, which I guess the Alliance doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the people do, but like.
Yeah.
The entity that is Alliance.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Dom's, I like what I saw with Dom lately. He's like the whole one more dance thing, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's like he moved to Mexico City and going out there it was only a couple days, but seeing him back with Coach Eric and all the work that they're doing at the PI over in Mexico City, it was like there's certain like energy you see with a group, and then it's just like this thing that. When I was talking to Nick about it, it was like this thing that should not exist right now, which is the support structure they're getting around it, right? The staffing, the funding, the high-level components that they have that's in charge of it. It's like this thing that should not exist, except that the UFC has created it and manifested into existence.
Right.
And it was just really interesting being like a spectator, or I guess like a small participant in that like brief couple days to see it in action. And I can see why Dom is feeling really good about the training and feeling good about himself and feeling good about like, dude, I just want to fight again. And for him, it's like, I mean, that guy just wants to fight, dude.
He just wants to fight, bro.
He just wants to fight.
Yeah.
And
he
he's
just wants to
so
fight.
good.
Yeah.
He's so good, So I'm excited for him. Hopefully, I think the main thing is like, if we talk about John Jones and Stipe and like, you should fight this person or this person. It's like, dude, these people have earned certain things, Like, I think Dom has earned, like, the right to fight somebody that has a name attached to him.
100%.
And so, like, I just hope that they do him justice. And then it's not just the UFC, right? Because they would have been fine with, like, an Aldo fight. But the other components, the other high-level fighters also have to agree to, compete in that stage and kind of give the fans, like, what they want, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to see an Aldo?
I was just gonna say, as a fan and as a friend, I would love to see Dom fight Aldo.
I mean, like even just the thought of that gets me excited.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like when does training camp start? Wait, like hold on, guys, I'm gonna be in surgery. I can't train right now.
I know,
Can you wait a little bit?
I want to be a part of that, right?
Yeah. No, I mean honestly, that's kind of like what happened in like kind of pulling me back into fighting. It's like I just love this so much, and I was going to all the pro practices and sparring with all the guys, and everybody's like, "Bro, what are you doing here? Like you're the only one. You're just hanging out. Like you don't even have fights. You're not even trying to fight. You just want to hang out. Like we're at recess playing kickball."
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I mean, I love working with Dom. I feel like he's very receptive to our style of striking, and then just kind of like adding in a couple components, because Eric's such a good striking coach on his own, but adding a couple like components from our side or our perspective of things. But honestly, even just being around Dom, like I learned so much about like life and talking to people and dealing with situations. He's just such like a wealth of knowledge in general.
Yeah, I agree. I would actually like to have Dom on the podcast.
Yeah.
Dom, I'm gonna get you on here, bro. All right, well, future note to self, this takes a very long time to brew.
Yeah.
When I'm brewing 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe what you can do is like start it here and then recut it and then with the stuff over here. And then it's just brewing and then we'll pour
I
it.
wonder if I should do that right now.
Yeah.
Let's do this because this is very organic and we're going to just figure things out as we go.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and transition to the table here. I'll continue to let the coffee brew, but we will transition, so we will see you guys on the other side. 1, 2, 3. That was whack. That was good enough. We got one clap. All right, we are back. This is day 2, episode 2. I am with my striking coach, Carl Gebhardt. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't even know how to fucking pronounce your last name.
Yeah, Gebhardt. Yeah.
I just assumed. Kind of like the podcast I had yesterday, kind of winging it as I go. But we are here. The coffee just finished brewing, so I'm about to pour us some coffee, and I guess we'll just get right back into it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Actually, let's do this. I'm gonna put this here. I didn't plan what I'm gonna do here, guys, so bear with me.
Delicious. The nectar of life.
Right? Perfect. Look at that.
It smells like energy.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. It's delicious.
It is delicious.
Delicious.
Phil's Coffee, you can go ahead and sponsor me. Yeah. Yesterday.
There's a Phil's Coffee in Encinitas that opened up.
Oh, really?
They got super popular. I don't know if it's still there, but
I think there's one in La Jolla.
I forgot about Phil's Coffee.
Yeah, it's really good. All right, we'll leave this here. That can stay there. All right. Thanks for your patience, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Cool. What were we talking about?
We're talking about seasons. We were talking about a couple of different things.
Oh, yeah. Fighting.
Fighting,
of course.
Yeah.
Fighting,
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, man. What do you feel like talking about today?
I mean, do you want to start talking about the fight since we're talking about seasons,
Yeah,
right?
let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Since we actually haven't even had a formal catch-up on that. I mean, we've obviously talked. I feel like, is this cracked? How is there fucking liquid coming through this mug? All right, technical difficulties. I'm going to switch my mug out here.
And we're back.
And we're back. This is just what happens. You got to do things on the fly.
Yeah, exactly.
Coffee after coffee. This is my coffee from earlier. But this is just what it is. This is what life is, you know? You just got to be able to roll with the punches.
Main line, nobody cares.
Yeah, no one cares.
Nobody cares.
We're gonna go ahead and leave that there. Let's get a new one. Whiskey. You want some whiskey in your coffee?
Debatable.
Debatable.
When I opened up the gym, that was like one of my things. I was like, I will never drink or get high and teach a class. Or obviously corner, but yeah, it's like my thing. Like many times I wanted to.
Yeah.
Many
Okay,
times.
we are back for real this time. Again, thank you for the patience, people of the Inters of Net.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, now we're fucking yin-yang action.
Mm-hmm. I know, right? Yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about the fight, dude.
Yeah. All right, so to catch you guys up, today is November 20. I fought 2.5-ish months ago, September 7th, here in San Diego. We are in San Diego right now, actually parked in front of Steel MMA. Ta-da.
Ta-da!
Yeah, I fought 2.5 months ago at Bellator, and that was actually a really fun experience. You know, until I got tired in the first round and fell asleep. You know what I mean? I should have slept the night before. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. It was a long week.
It was a long week. I decided to take a nap in the middle of the round. Fucking happens sometimes.
It was a fun fight, man.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think it was an interesting experience because there was so much involved outside of just the fight, right? And I think the one thing that our team does really well is like recognize, you know, the fight itself, which is like one part of it. There's like the pre-camp part of it, and then there's like how the team performs during that whole process of the two. So I thought like one of my main things that we talk about with the team, especially now when we have more fighters that are like getting closer to retirement or like getting closer to like life things that might force them to like, hey, maybe reassess if they want to continue fighting, is like you have to get what you want out of fighting. Otherwise, fighting's going to get what it wants out of you, right? And so I think what our team's done really well this past season, we've had about 20 fights this season, is like, what do you want to get out of the fight? So that way you know that like whether you kind of like, irregardless of what happens during the actual like end thing, it's like, did I get what I wanted out of it? Right. And I felt like for you, the thing that I was the most happy for you was I felt like irregardless of the win, you got what you wanted out of the fight.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a fun experience during the time.
Yeah, no, it was, I definitely did. It was such a funny feeling afterwards, right? Because it was like, I lost, so no one wants to lose.
Yeah.
Just in general in life, nobody wants to lose.
Yeah.
Let alone in front of their friends, their family, and it could have been this whole thing where I'm like, I don't want to come out of the locker room, I don't want to see people. I feel like as a human being, I've already kind of passed those mental hurdles.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, you know, what I wanted was to fight on a big show in San Diego.
Yeah.
Like, it was this bucket list thing, you know, I hadn't fought in forever. I'm obviously fighting this fucking hammer that is Bryce Meredith.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was able to do it, and I was able to, at least from, because there's so many angles I can take from it, right?
Yeah.
That's the bucket list part of, bro, you fully sent it. Like, you fully sent it. You even did it with a fucking torn shoulder, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then just on, say, more of a technical side, right? We talk about like the technique. You're talking about like, you know, the technician who wants to work on his watch.
Yeah.
Like, from the technician point, it was really cool to see myself do the things in the fight. And it wasn't even things that we necessarily like worked on, but it was things that I naturally already did. You know, like how you would say, like, you do that in practice all the time, though.
All the time.
You know what I mean? Like, every time someone rushes you, like, the timing of that shot or the timing of this.
Yeah.
But I literally had, like, a out-of-body moment for a second. Like, when I hit that first takedown, and it was so effortless.
Yeah.
I hit it, he kind of came down, he tried to scramble, and I took his back, and I was like, I guess I took you down. Not that I'm not confident in my wrestling or my grappling, but it's like, bro, you're the 3-time NCAA finalist guy. Like, you are supposed to just like blast double and run through me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're feeding you this old 39-year-old guy. So that was cool.
Yeah.
That counter cross, which I ended up like talking about when we did that little filming here, that was cool too. Hitting that, like I hit that all the time. You know, I hit that all the time. I actually used to hit it from orthodox, and I would do like a switch step, as if I was going to do like a switch kick. But then I would just like basically switch stances to throw that cross, because I would fight from ortho, but I was fighting from southpaw. So that was cool, like on a technique wise, to know that I could still perform. Yeah. Like my timing was there, you know, because the timing of that punch and the timing of the takedown are actually the exact same timing. I'm just basically subbing out X, as if like we're taking this math formula. Okay, I'm subbing out for this. But the timing of when I'm going to do it or why I'm doing it was like identical. Yeah. I got this pressure fighter, he's trying to come in, and he's just going to fall into this timing. Because I know he's coming in. So I'm just going to angle off. I basically angle off, or I, lower my level, which are, changing I'm not just a heavy bag standing in front of you. Yeah. So I thought that was cool, like on the technical side. And then like the whole experience. Bro, I was on like Fox News, I was on ABC.
An incredible journey will come full circle this Saturday at Pechanga Arena. Some of the top mixed martial artists in the world will compete in the Bellator Champions Series. And ABC 10 News reporter Steve Smith introduces us to an SDSU grad who will enter the cage for the first time in 12 years.
Jonathan McAlilloy was destined to be an MMA fighter. Why not? His family owned a martial arts studio. He also comes from a family of fighters.
Growing up, I wanted to be an artist. And so I thought that meant like drawing comic books or kind of the traditional art thing, but I was always on the mat, and I realized that this was my form of art.
Upon graduating from San Diego State, he turned professional. He won his first fight. However, his second fight would be life-changing.
I snapped my shin completely in half. That's my only loss. That loss kind of sent me on this existential crisis, and that was when I decided to walk away from fighting.
Destined to be a fighter, his gut told him he needed to try something else.
The scary part was letting go, which I feel like we struggle with most as human beings, is just our ability to let go.
He always loved writing, so he became an author.
The storyline on the surface of my book is about my professional fighting career, but really it's about that self-discovery journey that I went on.
A journey that took him to different parts of the world.
Tahiti, New Zealand, Australia, Southeast Asia.
And while traveling, he settled down in Costa Rica to be a teacher.
I kind of just lived a completely different lifestyle.
He says after 12 years of finding himself, he needed to complete that last chapter. And that would be a return to MMA.
We still got it, man. And, not that I'm here to really relive an entire chapter, but it's like, let's go out and play.
He returns as a different fighter, a different person with a different mentality.
Now, like, I know I'm more than enough, and fighting doesn't determine who I am. Whether I win, whether I lose, it's not the end of the world anymore. And I feel like there's a freedom that comes with that.
Steve Smith, ABC 10 News.
After his fighting days are over, John wants to continue to write and would also like to become a motivational speaker.
I met Shane, and we did that whole like Hollywood style like video. Spiritually, I no longer felt aligned with fighting. All the omens were pointing me in a different direction. I knew I had to let go, and so I did. I stopped fighting a couple months before my 27th birthday, unsure of who I was or what I was doing with my life. The biggest fight that we ever have is with ourselves, is with the ego, is with the voice in your head. You're not strong enough, you're not smart enough, you aren't really destined to be a champion. You have to battle that in order to free yourself. I let my ego take over it kind of says like, man, you missed your window. Oh man, you wasted all that time. You left fighting when you were 26, 27. You're, as an athlete, supposed to be in your prime. So here I am now, a month away from my 39th birthday. Maybe the timing is right now. Maybe I was always supposed to be this late bloomer. I have to remind myself to stay in the present moment. And in the present moment, it's time to fight. Now it's like, it almost feels like I did that mission and I unlock this new playable character, like it's an RPG game. And now all of a sudden I have Shane, who I wouldn't have known if I hadn't taken this fight. Like, I would have never known Shane. Yeah. And now I got all these freaking cool lights. I found all these angles. He's like helping me with this thing, and he's going to be on the podcast.
And you met like a cool friend now.
Yeah. And now I'm a cool friend. Like, we're just, honestly, like, I was at his house 2 days ago.
His kid's trained at my gym.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, full circle. Yeah, so I was like, I've been going to his house and he's been like helping me get set up on this, you know, and we're just hanging out and we're drinking some tequila and we're just like this, like just hanging out. Like, sure, do I see you as my striking coach? Yes. But are you also just one of the homies and one of my friends?
Definitely.
Also, yes. Yeah, so many awesome things came from that experience. Even though I lost. Like, it is just such a strange feeling to feel like I won even though I lost. Yeah. Because a younger self, a younger version of me would have not been okay with what just happened. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it's a fine line, right? Because like, I think some people, they create a situation where they're, I mean, even the term, you know, you don't lose, you learn, right, is 100% correct, but it's also can be a trap for people if you're not doing the work, right? And so I think, you know, we have to wrap our heads around like, what are we actually getting out of it? What is the silver lining? What is like the full spectrum of lessons that we learned? Do we become a better person, right? Do we learn something about ourselves, right? Do we perform in the way we wanted to? Because you can always go out there and slip on a banana peel. That happens, right? Sometimes you'll go out and you'll fight somebody who you're like, 10-1, favorite for it, right? But you slip on a banana peel and you have a bad performance and it's like, you don't feel good about it. So I think it's like the full spectrum of like understanding the ecosystem around what you've gained from that fight camp or from that experience or that time that you'll never get back, and be able to train with people that are cool and then like making that experience like enjoyable to a certain extent, I think is huge, right? Yeah. Because then you're like getting way more, like you're sucking the marrow out of like the experience.
100%.
As opposed to like no, it's about winning, and if you don't win, then you're a loser. And it's like, look, I mean, to a certain degree, nobody wants to lose, right? But at the same time, it's like, bro, like this life experience is so like short that it's like we have to be, we're using this fight as a vehicle for something also, right?
Right.
And so like we have to just like be very, very conscious about the things that we're getting out of it.
Yeah. No, it's totally that. And I think for anybody who's going into fighting, like honestly, like you hit me with that, like, know why you're doing this. You know, and it was a very simple thing. It's very in your nature to coach that way and to not just be like, let me work on your kicks or work on that, but to be in the fighter's head, the psychology of it. Yeah. And I think that's important for everything, not even just taking a fight. Like, really, you should know your why you're doing things, you know, and then understanding like these are just like experiences of time that you're never going to get back. Yeah. You know, and I feel like when that opportunity showed up to fight for Bellator, you know, I was like, hey, dude, I think I'm going to, reach out to Bellator. Like, I have an ace up my sleeve. Like, we had all these other options on the table. Oh, we could go through karate combat. We could do this. Oh, Cage Warriors is coming. I'm like,
and I wasn't trying to, like, redirect you. I was trying to just, like, look, you're doing this thing here, and I thought we talked about these things. So I just want to understand why. You know?
Yeah.
And you're like, you explained it, and you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But again, because it was like my focus was on the experience, not on the outcome of the winning or losing. Yeah. I really thought that I was going to win. Like,
I thought you were too.
I really thought, and even looking back on it now, like, bro, if I had my arm and I could punch.
I mean, look, I think it's like, we were just talking about this yesterday. And like the thing that we hate is, like, as you hate this, I hate this, is when a fighter goes out and uses that as an excuse immediately to brand manage, right? To where it's like, oh, I had this and I had a tummy ache and my shoulder hurt and like this didn't happen to me and then like my uncle passed away. But I think it's different if you're like explaining the context of the situation. You know what I mean? To where it's like, we normally would have hit pads once or twice a week leading up to the fight. We basically trained for a Taekwondo fight. And it was super fun. I really enjoyed it, right? Because we basically just did all kicks, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but it was like, I literally couldn't hold focus mitts for you for fucking 12 weeks. And we kept saying, in 2 weeks, I think we're on the right track. It's going to get better. And in 2 weeks, and like literally at like week 4 into it, we're 8 weeks out. And I was like, this motherfucker's going to fight no matter what happens, right? And I was like, my main thing is like, is it going to affect your mentality? That's always like my rubric, right? So
Sure.
it's like, is it going to affect your mentality going into the fight? And I didn't feel like it was going to affect your mentality. You had a lot of other options, ways to win. I felt good about like our game plan going into it. I felt good about your mentality going into it.
Yeah.
We went there 100% to win that fight.
Oh, yeah.
Have our hand raised, shake his hand afterwards, and be like, yo, we just took that dude out, right?
Yeah.
And celebrate. And we had great moments in the fight. You know, I thought you were doing a lot of the right things. I knew the shoulder was going to be an issue if we got into certain positions because we couldn't work certain positions. Like, there's some things on the fence that you normally do really well. We just didn't get to drill them because every time you leaned to your right and fucking posted, you couldn't do that.
Yeah, it was basically like a sharp thumb slap,
And
like
you're
someone
well,
stabbing.
now we can't train for a day,
Yeah.
right? But it's like that was the context in the situation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like, did that hamstring us? Yeah, that's why you're getting surgery,
Right.
Like it wasn't like an owie.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you had to
Wasn't
get.
that weird? Actually, my whole rotator cuff is torn off.
It's torn
fully
off.
torn.
Yeah.
not a partial tear. Well, the bicep tendon was partially torn, but the
And then you did
supraspinatus,
a fucking Bellator fight with a high-level wrestler. It wasn't like some guy in basketball shorts that knew how to throw a jab, right?
Which funny, on the podcast yesterday, we talked about that because my homie was at that fight with what I call the 7-Eleven guy who showed up in like and one shorts from like the thrift store. I'm like, does this guy even know how to fight? You know, like it's like the guy who, if you were to walk into the gym and the guy shows up to Muay Thai of all things with short shorts, and he's got like
I'm gonna be your next ONE FC champ.
and one shorts. I'm like, right, you definitely don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So to piggyback on that, those were, I feel like, two ways. One, that was a huge win for me mentally to see myself like not waver. You know, like no matter what I was going through, it was like, I'm fighting, period.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm not going to make any complaints. Like I didn't go into the fight saying I hurt my shoulder, even immediately afterwards. Like, I mean, I released that spoken word maybe a couple weeks ago where I just slightly mentioned like, oh, I had a torn shoulder. Like I didn't, nothing else. You know what I mean? So that was cool as a human being to see myself locked in so much. To be like, it doesn't matter. You know, I was like, whoa, that feels really cool to just like have that conviction in something. Yeah. Right? Because earlier we were talking about, you know, reading these Hallmark cards, and that sounds like something I'd say, and we just kind of attach to it. But it's almost like I'm going to write this card myself, and I'm very convicted in the words that I'm saying or the actions that I'm doing. Yeah. On that other side, you talk about camps and experiences. Bro, it totally felt like we were getting ready for a Taekwondo fight. Right? I've never really done Taekwondo. I mean, there's kicks obviously in Kaiji Kembo. Yeah. But that's more of so your background. Yeah. But it was cool because for me, you are literally in all the striking coaches I've ever had, I feel like you're the only one who's been able to speak that language. Yeah. As if it's like, oh, I speak Japanese, and all of a sudden this coach also speaks Japanese. Yeah. We don't speak Japanese.
We don't speak Japanese. Yeah.
So
we just identified. Yeah. Squishy.
But that was really cool because it was like I'm exploring all these kicks that I'm able to almost do immediately when you ask me to do it, even if it's not something I haven't done before, just because of the dexterity of my hips and understanding of kicks and this and that. But I feel like I was able to bring so many techniques into my arsenal, from like the side kick John Jones kick, like.
Started training it before the final. He goes
That was the first time. The camp was the first time I've ever thrown it. Yeah. The fight was the first time I ever. Even when I threw it on, right in the beginning of the fight, I was like, "Oh, cool, that works." Like, you know, like, live in a fight. Everything was like, "Well, I guess we're just gonna figure it out in live combat." Even just like being relaxed and like throwing these head kicks, you know, and kind of doing these things, like, man, it was really fun. I felt like my kicks really leveled up. Like I've always considered my kicks to be high level, and like it's one of my like aces. But I feel like we were able to really refine that in this camp, and it was cool to be like, all right, that's gonna be our strategy because you can't punch, motherfucker. You can't bear crawl, you can't do punches. So I guess we're just gonna kick for this fight.
You got a left hand and the kicks.
I got a left hand and I have kicks. That's all I got.
And project-wise for me, that's always fun because there's always going to be issues in camp. So either we can dwell on what we don't have, or we can focus on what we do have. Right. And then so I think you did a really good job of keeping the mentality behind like, what do we have? What's in front of us? What are our options? Cool. Let's focus on those things. Yeah. And it wasn't like, I mean, obviously there's always going to be moments of like, shit, is this going to get better? Shit, like, can we bring this right hand back? But I think you did a really good job of like focusing on like the strengths that you had during the time and then just kind of having fun with it. Yeah. But it's such a dichotomy, right? It's like, I mean, I think even when you talk about like your mentality going into the fight, and I feel like that's something that is a recurring theme with all high-level fighters, and definitely a component that we try to push on the team, which is like this, if I were to say for most people, like you have to be ready to die when you hop into the cage, ring, whatever, outside the 7-Eleven. And that is a necessary ante up in order for you to be successful and to be at your best. Then most people think like, well, then I have to die in training and kill myself in training so that way I'm prepared to die during the actual fight itself. But in my mind, it's like everything has a balance, right? And so like if you're ready to die and you have that like point, then that unlocks your ability to find enjoyment during the thing.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
It does.
Right. And so I think for our team, I think you have to be, Jorge said this, Dom says this. Dom's like, I'm ready to die right before. And I feel it. Like, he's not fucking around.
Yeah.
He's 100% ready to die.
Right. Like the quote that he just that's been posted in yesterday
What
or
did he
whatever.
say? He's like, to the death.
Yeah, it's like, I had something along the lines of like, I have one last dance in me. And by dance, I mean like, basically like, fight to the death. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's his mentality going into it, I mean, Jorge, before his pro debut, when he was fighting in Mexico, we were going out and I was like, we were kind of talking about like, like just be free, man, just be free. And he's like, no, I've made peace with my death. It's fine. And then his was not like this, like, dipping his feet into the well of darkness like Dom has. His was kind of this like a little bit more like no, I've made peace with it. I'm okay with it. I understand if it happens, it happens. And it's like, it's not like everybody has to be that way.
Right.
But I do think that like during your training, you have to make peace with the fact that like, look, a thing can happen that I'm not in control over. And so I'm like releasing or relinquishing control over the final moment. And I'm just going to focus on controlling the things that lead up to that moment.
Correct.
And I'm going to make peace with the fact that like I don't have control over that.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you can go all in and at the same time like make peace with it and not have it wreck your life, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Which is weird because it shouldn't be that way, but that's
right.
What
It's this paradox. It's this paradox of
Yeah.
like, yeah, dude, like you're fully sending it, you're fully committed. And actually when you had left to go pick up Taylor and I was just cutting weight with Ashley, one of the things that she said that stuck out to me was you have to divorce yourself from the outcome.
Yeah.
And although I knew it, it was nice to hear it from my teammate, especially like
In that moment.
In that moment,
Yeah.
like the reminder, like okay, divorce yourself from the outcome. Like all you can do is what you can do. You controlled what you can control. You had the best camp that you possibly could have given this situation. Obviously, could I have had a better camp? Yeah, it would have been nice to not have a torn shoulder.
Yeah.
But like we're just gonna work around it. You have to go with what you got. Like even when I hit this podcast yesterday or even today, it was like I'm not really ready, but like this is just where we're at.
Yeah.
And that's just life.
Yeah.
That's just life. Like you're not always going to be ready, but if you're willing to lock in mentally, then it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And that's why it's cool. It's like when you have people like that write or people that document, right, like this even.
Sure.
When we're in camp, like we learn all these fucking lessons and then we can pass it down like hand to hand in like this tribal format. But it's cool seeing, I think, not just us, obviously, but these guys that come in, like I think Eric Nixick, I think of him, who does really well on podcasts. Eugene has a different angle. Eugene Berriman from City Kickboxing, I think that's the name of it. But
That's over in New Zealand, right?
Yeah. But when you have these like high level coaches that are talking about, and then for a lot of them, part of it is tactics, but they can't talk about tactics, obviously. So a lot of it is like the mentality that goes into it, and then just kind of like searching for these gems that come up is really cool. And I think for a lot of younger teams that look up to teams like Extreme Couture or City Kickboxing, they can pull lessons from some of these coaches and like lessons like we were just talking about is really cool because I think that was a big component that we didn't understand when we were early in the team. Because early in the team, it's always about the what, right?
Right.
Like what combos are we doing? What is the formula? Like what is the logistics behind the actual training? But over time, that becomes more static because you kind of figure it out.
That's all dialed in now.
Yeah.
And now we get to focus on the next
The
chapter.
psychology is what unlocks your ability to use these things, And so it's a random thought, but like when you're writing, your books and stuff like that, the podcast, like it's really cool to be able to broadcast these ideas and like understand that the psychology behind these things is really what makes great teams,
Dude, 100%. I mean, that's one of the inspirations for this is like, I mean, we're sitting here right now and we're having coffee and we're having this conversation, but like this is regular. Like every time we talk,
it's just like
it goes into all these different
like
spaces.
accident, yeah.
And then I also find myself, maybe it's not about fighting or say the paradox or all the things that we've just talked about, but it feels like all the people that I'm having conversations, I mean not all, obviously people that I connect with, that I vibe with, which is quite a few. It's like we get into these conversations where the afterthought is like, man, that would have been cool if that was recorded.
Yeah.
Like that would have been a cool nugget for other people to hear about the psychology or the mentality, because really that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, do you have to learn the technique of a punch or a kick? Like, sure.
Yeah.
You know, but none of that matters if you don't really have this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I feel like psychology is just so important, man. You know, and it's like, but that requires so many things. That requires people to have experience. Otherwise, the psychology doesn't have the same lock if they don't have the experience that can support what they're saying. Like anything, if you don't have the accolades, or if you haven't like been there and been through tough fights and like, made mistakes, you know, throughout the way. Like I tell people, they're like, oh, you know, like, I mean, every once in a while, like, not that I'm like a great coach, but like some people like talk about like, oh, you know, like, how do you do
You
this?
are a great coach, to correct you real quick.
But I'm like, dude, I've lost more fights than you've, like, I've cornered more fights and lost than you've had cornered total. And I was like, dude, I've made so many fuck ups. Like I've lost sleep for 3 days because I messed up something in camp. Like I've, you know, like cried after fights and like been there in like ERs with people just because like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, I fucked that camp up. Like shit, I should have done that. So it's like, not that you have to punish yourself, but I think like it takes strain, it takes like intention, and it takes like kind of some suffering to get to a point to where you can actually figure out that what are you supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, so I think a lot of coaches just have to go through that. Like I'm still going through that.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're probably still going through it. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it's something that you're gonna continually go through. Maybe it's gonna be less in terms of not less impactful, but like you know what it feels like to weather these storms now.
Yeah.
You've been in the trenches, I'm losing sleep over this, or like, man, I fucked that one up.
Yeah.
You know, to where if there is some type of fuck up in the future, you're like, okay, yeah, that sucks, and I'm gonna sit in the suck for a little bit, but
Yeah.
like I also know how to pick myself back up,
Yeah.
and this is part of it. And
Yeah.
we got a couple guys fighting next week, so it's like there's
Yeah.
no time to fucking.
Yeah, I think
That's
Eric
it.
Nixon talks about that. They're like, well, how much time do you have to like celebrate? And he's like, I had one day. Like I have guys fighting this weekend. Like I don't have time to fucking sit around and have a pity party
Yeah.
or sit around and celebrate.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But I think like I don't know. I think the intention, like you have to love the people that you're training and working with. And I think it's very obvious when coaches kind of start pulling away from that and detaching. And then it's like, you feel it in the practice room when the coaches start pulling away from it, you know? So I feel like our practice room is just like fun now. It's so much
The
fun.
practice room here is so great. It's like my favorite thing. It's like my favorite thing. Like,
Yeah, like we're in a playground, just like fucking around.
dude, that's what it feels like.
But
Like,
obviously it's serious when it needs to be, but
yeah. And honestly, that's largely you. Like, you know, like you are the captain of the ship.
Guys, first and third, 3 and 3. First and third, 3 and 3. Okay, careful with our training partners, especially things like flying knees, Alex, and heel kicks. You too. Okay, ready?
You have created this culture of weirdos.
called the like Island of Misfit Fighters.
yeah, yeah. No, but it's great. You know, like even when we were walking around like the hotel at Bellator, and it's like me, you, and Jordan, Ashley, and it's like we're just joking around. Like, are you guys here for a stand-up comedy event, or are you guys here to fight? Like,
Yeah.
who the fuck are these clowns? You know?
Yeah.
But it's what makes it so fun. You
Yeah.
know, like I think Bruce Lee said something along the lines of like, I'm serious about my training, but I'm not serious when I train.
Yeah.
And talking about like having enjoyment.
Totally.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's so fun. You know, it's so fun because we can be cracking pads and going hard or hitting the bag and doing Tabata stuff or even sparring. And then you're just going to walk around and like, you know, talk shit and whisper in our ear or
Yeah.
like crack some joke or like, you know, even when you're explaining stuff, like it's, there's so much comedic relief and there's so much camaraderie.
Yeah.
It just creates this environment that is just so enjoyable to be in.
Yeah.
You know, like whether you're getting ready for a fight, whether you're not, like I just want to be here actually, you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
break a sweat, have some fun, laugh. Like I think that's what's going to make this sustainable.
And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Because it's like, if you think about crying, like what is crying in itself? Like you're releasing what?
You're releasing some type of emotion or feeling or just
I mean, the function of tearing is you're releasing cortisol, right? So like, you can have these blow off valves in different ways. So like, my preference is whiskey, right? So you can like drink and forget about these things. LeBron James does wine, right? Or you can cry about it and think about how tough it is, but you know, it's hard, and if I just train harder than the next guy, then I'm gonna win. And I think that works really well initially, but at a high level, it's not always the person that works the hardest,
No,
right?
it
It's
is
the person
not.
that trains the smartest.
Yeah.
And so I think like either our blow off valve can be like have fun, enjoy, like have this culture of like enjoying it, and we make jokes about it, kind of like talk shit to each other, or we can have this thing of like the hardest person is the person that wins. And I think sometimes that does make a difference in certain phases of the year when we're trying to like laughing a little too much, right? Because I definitely do scream at the fucking
Right.
team. But I think in
Yeah.
general, like what's our general MO? It's like our general MO is, man, like, do we get one life? Like, like we gotta enjoy the shit we're doing. We gotta be proud of the shit we're doing. We gotta take care of each other.
Dude,
like at the end of the
for
day,
sure.
we're not making enough money. And even if you are making a lot of money, we do have people on the team that make a lot of money. It's like, dude, you don't want to be 50 looking back and being like, damn, dude, like I just worked really hard, but like I don't even know if I've had fun. I don't even know if I enjoyed it, you know?
Right.
So like I don't want to look back when I'm like 60 and being like, fuck, I just
is like
yelled
next
at a
year,
lot
right?
of people. It's like next year. My beard looks like it. But I want to look back when I'm 60 and be like, dude, I yelled at a lot of people, but I like half of them fucking hate me now because I was too hard on them. Because I had this mentality early on that it was like, I will kick you through, kicking and screaming if I have to, but I want you to win your fight. So if you are mad, I'd rather have you be more afraid of me than the person that you're fighting. And that worked really fucking well initially. And then all of a sudden the wheels start falling off. I'm like, yeah, everybody fucking hates me. It's like, no shit.
Yeah.
Like, look at your fucking like byline, you know?
Take it easy,
Like, if
Hitler.
your motto is like that, then it's like, well, of course they're gonna fucking hate you. And then like longevity wise, so you're not even gonna have enough fighters that are high level because they haven't sticking around. So I'm like, Carl, you're being kind of a fucking asshole, you know? So yeah, it's like we want to believe that you can do both. You know, you can enjoy your time, work hard, you can get a lot out of it, but you're not gonna look back when you're 60 and being like, "Fuck, man! Like I don't even know if I had fun." You know?
Yeah.
Like that's terrible.
Yeah, I've been in some rooms like that where and like the first thing I think is like wrestling rooms. Like growing up wrestling, like that room, no one's smiling, bro.
Yeah.
First of all, everybody's cutting weight every fucking week.
Yeah.
But it's just like this grind where you're getting yelled at, and it's like, it shaped me. That's part of my character. I have a lot of grit because of that. But you talk about it's good in the beginning, and I think it has its place. It's not that it doesn't have its place, but sustainability wise, like it can't take you longevity wise. It can't take you far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's important at a certain aspect, but after that, like you're just gonna be shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I guess circling back to like the fight itself, right? What would you say is the thing that you probably like picked up the most out of it, right? Because you went from this like, I'm retired and I'm doing this kind of for funsies and I want to be in the room and like still have it kind of tangible and then reachable, but also I don't want to fight anymore, but I kind of do. And then all of a sudden you hit this point where you're like, fuck that, I'm fighting now, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a 180 because it wasn't like you had just done nothing.
Right.
And then you had been training the entire time, and that's why you still perform well in the fight, you know, and you had great moments. But it was like, you know, I think you had this original intention, this why going into it, right? So I guess like, how do you feel after the fight's done about the why? And then like, what is the next why?
Okay, that's cool. I feel really good about my decision to take that fight.
Me too. Yeah.
Like you said, it wasn't this 180, you know, thing. I had been training, I don't want to say this entire time, because like earlier when I was talking about living in Costa Rica, like I'm not training at all.
Yeah.
When I left fighting, and I was like working on this book, it was like I was just this writer. I felt like I was taking one hat off and putting another hat on. I'm having to leave John the fighter behind and be Jonathan the writer type of
Did you
thing.
start training again when you came to San Diego?
Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Now I was training sporadically here and there. So like maybe let's see if I can think about this timeline wise. I had my like last fight in 2012. I eventually walked away. So that's when I walked away from fighting. I was still coaching at the Dragon's Den at my brother's school back home until maybe 2015-ish, end of 2015. And I was just kind of getting a little bit burnt out because this was all I had ever done.
Yeah.
And I loved teaching and I loved my brother and I loved the Dragon's Den, but it was like, you know, I mean, you know how it is. You talk about like, oh, I'm here 50 hours a week, this and that.
It's a rough grind.
And I think it was part of, because when I left fighting, I was still in the space of like, who am I without fighting, or what's my identity?
Yeah.
And I felt like in order to find my identity, I also had to just let go of martial arts altogether, because I was still holding on to something. Maybe I wasn't this high level competitive athlete anymore, but I was still a martial artist. And I was like, okay, well, what happens if you let go of that too? Like, let's just see who you are, type of thing. And that's when I wrote the book. I fell in love, traveled the world, like, and so I wasn't really training. And when we were traveling, I would try to like, oh, is there like a jiu-jitsu gym here? Like, let me see if I can get open mat. But I'm not
super casual.
Yeah, I'm not. 2 to 3 days a week is not even a thing. It's like, oh, 2 to 3 times a month. I'm just
Yeah.
like popping in here and there. Like I'm not focused on
You would
fighting.
visit martial arts as opposed to like being a consistent martial artist. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then after I went through, or I was going through the divorce during the pandemic, and it was like, I always knew I was going to come back to San Diego at some point because I wanted to get my black belt from Barrett.
Yeah.
Shout out to Barrett Yoshida. Hopefully I can get Barrett on this show.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily the type of person who would have a podcast, but we'll see what I can do.
Yeah, might have to sneak one in.
Yeah. But yeah, so then it was like, in that process of healing, it was like getting back to all the things that I love. Right, I just got heartbroken, like this loss of love. So it's like learning how to love myself again. And so now I'm trying on all these hats that I used to wear, all these things that I used to do. And it's like, okay, like, I really love martial arts a lot. Like it's always going to be me, you know what I mean, type of thing. So coming back here was like doing those things. Obviously I moved here just to do jiu-jitsu, but then you're hanging out with all your old friends. Oh, now I'm seeing Herman. Oh, now I'm seeing Dom. Especially Dom. Dom wants to fight all the time.
Yeah.
You know, he wants everybody to fight all the time. Type of vibe.
Come in, hang out, we'll have a good time. Like, we're sparring.
Yeah. You talk about one person who doesn't know how to flow. That motherfucker. You know Dom. He gets 100% real quick. But it's also one of the things that I like about Dom. Like I know I'm always going to get really, really, really great training with him because we're just going to go.
Yeah.
We're going to go, you know.
Anything he does is 100%.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
You know. So it was like flirting with this idea of fighting, and that's why I was kind of like towing the water. Eric and Herman were the ones who were like, "Oh, go take this fight at Gladiator."
Mm-hmm.
And even if I were to fight I was supposed to fight like a regular fighter. Yeah. It still didn't really do it for me.
Yeah.
Like I needed something more.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel the rush of not necessarily fear, which is part of the excitement. It's like the same line, but like I want to be in the mix. I need to taste that, you know, coming in, and it's like almost like, you know, I'm helping Jordan get ready for his fights. I'm helping Dom getting ready for his fights. I'm helping all these people get ready for his fights. Like, okay, I think I kind of want to play too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to revive a career and let's go make a run, and I'm just back to fighting now. I'm John the Fighter again. I'm back to being JonMac and fuck everything else. It was like, let's do this and let's send it. This is something you wanted to do. Fuck it, send it. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And then so now I'm at this point and talking about like why and almost like what's next. It's like, well, this is the immediate what's next is this podcast, right? Because I basically found out that, this surgery is like a long recovery. Like you're not going to be doing anything. And I'm like, oh shit, no bartending, no martial arts. Like, what am I going to do with my time for the next however many months? And it's like, I guess it's time to launch this podcast. And I already had the idea to launch the podcast when I bought this van and I had it built out. Like this setup was meant to have conversations over because I knew I wanted to have conversations with people. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, let's just launch it now. That way you have something to do when you're recovering. You can like edit these videos and figure it all out. And so it's almost like the fight forced me into the situation that I'm in. Yeah, it sucks that I have to have surgery. I don't wish surgery upon anybody or having to like do this whole rebuilding. But it's almost like now it's giving me this space to literally work on this project and like really dial this in. So that when I do come back to San Diego, if that's what's next, I don't even know.
Yeah.
In my mind, do I think that I'm coming back to San Diego afterwards? Yeah. Am I also aware enough of change to know that that may not be the case because a lot of things can happen in 6 months? I'm also know that could happen.
Yeah.
However, it's like, okay, let me dial in this podcast and this can become a regular thing. I would like to have regular conversations with people, even have return guests and this and that, while balancing still training and still doing these things.
Yeah.
But it would be hard to get this project off of its feet if all I'm doing is martial arts.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause
I mean, we were talking about it before. You were already trying to do it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, dude, I'm training. I don't have time for this right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I mean, like, we filmed that little podcast in there. I'll probably throw some B-roll on here. And that's that. Picasso, like, learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist.
Yeah.
I think it is important to learn this, like, the perfect technique. You know, that's an arbitrary thing, perfect technique. I think maybe efficient, because I think what technique is I was already in the space of wanting to do that. But the thing is, because I love martial arts so much, it always takes priority. Even if it's not actually the priority, somehow it just becomes the number one most important thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to hang out with your friends and go drinking? Nope, I want to go train tomorrow, so I'm not going to do that. Like, do you want to go surf? Nope, I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, San Diego, I'm going to surf and I'm going to practice Spanish. And what do?
5 minutes later, you're in the gym.
Yeah, that's all I do.
Yeah.
I do jiu-jitsu. I just want to punch people in the face. I just want to do those things. So it's almost like the universe stripped it. It's like, hey, motherfucker, like, I need you to do this project. Like, I need you to do this thing. Like, I get that you love fighting and you can go back to that. You can do back to martial arts, but like, you know, you've been needing to do this. I mean, I've been living in this van for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
that means even before the 3 years, I already had this idea that I wanted to do this podcast, but I never launched it. Why? Because I just want to do martial arts.
Yeah. What's funny, it's like all things kind of like either happen for you or they happen, you know, like against you.
Yeah.
So I think like the fight happened for you, right? Because you met Shane, so you're able to like sync up with all these things. And then even having somebody like him approval of like, no, this looks good. You know, and then you see it kind of manifest, and you see like, you know, the output. And like, oh no, this actually does it. Really
actually,
good.
this looks great.
You know, and then even having like the Bellator fight where you're having like connections and you have like a talking point, and then something to kind of like start it off with. You know, I think it's like it's cool to see how that experience is driving and then giving you momentum and wind for this next experience. You know what I mean?
No, it's like it like literally pushed into it.
Yeah,
as
exactly,
if like that ending chapter.
Almost like it was meant to be. You know?
For real.
Yeah.
It really feels that way. You know.
So I think all people should think of things that way, right? So where it's like, you know, you're always going to have experiences, but it's always pushing you towards like the next evolution, what's next, you know,
Correct.
as opposed to just like sitting and watching football and fucking around. You know? Which, I mean, at first it works for some people. It's just like, oh man, I just watch people sometimes. I'm like, fuck, I don't know how you live like that.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
Also sounds awesome sometimes, but
Yeah. Oh, let me just do nothing, crack open a beer, and watch some TV.
Exactly. Sometimes it sounds amazing.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't do that. There's no fucking TV in here.
I'm gonna get off work and go to my kids' soccer. Drop back a couple tall cans and watch the game. Like, it actually does sound kind of fun.
Perspective is important, man. Perspective is important because that goes back to like you're talking about how psychology is important. Because it's funny, like I'm dialed in on what this experience has given me, what it's giving me before, what it's giving me afterwards, how it's leading into the next thing, how it's the talk about this evolution. But when I tell people, and the whole gamut, you know, acquaintances, friends, coaches, whatever, that like, oh fuck, dude, like I'm moving back to the Bay because I have to have surgery. I'm gonna be gone for like, I don't know, 4 to 6 months, and I really don't know what's gonna happen after that.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I'll be right back, but I don't actually know if that's a fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's okay, right?
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because everybody's responses, some people are like, oh bro, like you'll be fine, like da-da-da. Oh, it'll be nice to see family. And then some people are like, oh bro, I'm so sorry, man, that sucks, fuck man, like life. And it's like, no.
Stop.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so
You're
like
talking to my inner bitch, and I don't appreciate that.
yeah. Don't wake her up. I put her to bed already. Yeah. We're in the higher vibration category over here. But it's funny hearing, at least at the point that I am now, people's perspectives. I think a younger version of me, like a non-evolved version of me, because you talk about things we're always evolving.
Yeah.
You would take these things and then it starts to, like you said, like don't talk to her or don't talk to that part of me because it'll wake that up, and then all of a sudden my thoughts will be in that way.
Yeah.
But going back to having like conviction in my, say, decision for Bellator of like, it doesn't matter. Nothing really matters. I don't care how tough that opponent is. I don't care if the opening odds, when the odds opened in Vegas, you talk about 10-1, it was actually 10-1.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it came down a little bit, very little bit afterwards, but it was like, that were the odds. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
Torn shoulder.
I totally didn't think about it that way.
Yeah. Didn't matter. Like all these things didn't matter. And so like, because I trust myself. I've gotten to a point in life where I trust myself. And I think that was one of the coolest things about, say, that fight was like trusting myself and making that decision. Like when Eric and Herman told me I should fight Gladiator, my gut was saying like, dude, you don't want that. Like you want something else. But it was like, I'm just going to listen to my coaches because they're my coaches. Yeah. And so even in the dialogue that we had, and you know, we were thinking about going in other directions, you're like, you know, I said that was the hardest path, right? You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't that I was trying to undermine your advice. Obviously, I was coming to you because I wanted to listen to it. But it was like, I'm making this decision for myself. And because I made that decision for myself, it was easier for me to not waver. Yeah. Because it was my decision.
Yes.
And so as people's perceptions, it's really just a projection of their own, how they interpret life. Yeah. Right? Because like things literally just happen. And then it's our mind or our psychology that interprets what happens. Yeah. You know, it's how good is your interpreter? How good is your storyteller? Yeah. Are you able to tell a different story? Because I could be like, I could tell a story like, say, if my younger self, if I think about like who I was when I wrote that book, let's say Exit the Dragon, like the character of John and that, and it's like, oh man, I got injured. This is the universe telling me like I shouldn't fight anymore, and maybe I shouldn't do martial arts. I should just be a writer. I should just do this, that, and I could tell that story. Yeah. It's like, do you want to narrate that? Or it's like, no, you know, because of this, like you were able to knock off all these bucket lists. You met Shane, you unlocked this new character. It helped you progress into this. Like, that's the story I'm telling. So it's like, what's the story you want to tell about what's happening in your life?
Dude, that's the most important thing, right? And then are your actions aligned with the story, right?
Right.
You know, so I think when we were talking about it, I think there's always this, camera's too hot.
Ooh. We're going to take a little break real quick on that note. We're gonna pause and maybe swap out these batteries because the camera's too hot and it's dead. Okay, pause. BRB. Can you just hit the record button on top? All right, we are back. I had to swap out the batteries. Again, this is in live time, figuring it out as we go. But this is life. This is how it is. Okay, so where were we? Fighting somewhere along those lines, obviously.
Fighting? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Punching people in the face, perspective. There was a question we were leaving with. I don't even remember anymore. I should have wrote it down.
What were we talking about? Where we were going to, or what we were talking about?
I don't know, either.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, about that.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. Whatever topic we were talking about, I guess we'll cycle back if it was meant to be important.
Yeah.
But yeah, psychology, perspective, fighting. It's all part of the same.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's interesting. I think we talk a lot about, getting more out of it and like the big scope of things and the perspective and stuff like that. Since we're on that subject and we had like a really good season, one of the things then the coaches kind of talked about is like we have good waves and then we have like good waves lead to bad times. You know what I mean? So it's like it has this like up and down kind of effect. So one of the things we were talking about with the coaches is like what we don't want is everyone to think that like their shit doesn't stink and then they're just really good and they can just chill and have fun, because that's kind of what we had in this like past season. So it's going to create problems for the next season if we think we can kind of like rest on our laurels or whatever the saying is. So I think there's a certain degree of like finding balance even within that, and like these like little seasons or micro time frames where we have to like get our shit together, push a little bit harder, like go after each other a little bit more in like the training room. So that's one of the things like we've been talking about with the coaches about like we have to find these like little mini balances about like how we're holding the standards versus how we're just kind of like riding the wave, when things are already kind of going well. But I don't know, I think, do you ever find that it's challenging when you're training, especially for fights, but just in general, about finding the balance between like the old you that was like super hungry, tenacious, wanted to like conquer, wanted to like, oh, who's the new guy over here? I'm gonna fuck that dude up, you know what I mean? Versus like this like more of like a vet and then handling things a little bit more differently with a little bit more grace and a little bit more like fight IQ.
Yeah, I'm totally in that space now. Like I remember the young JonMac who was like, who's the new kid? You know what I mean? Like, or like let's let him know. Let him know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like kind of like an Alex almost. Like we're kind of
Alex is that guy.
He is that guy. Oh, okay. He has that like that like look that he has like that he does. I'm definitely on not that side anymore. Like I know how to dial in that energy. Like when it's time to grind and push. Like just like talking about like. I just put myself back into the mentality of like when I was in the wrestling room, and I can like lock in. Like the moment if you were not trying to fun and games and joking, like I'll lock right in.
Yeah,
that's me being a veteran and knowing I can tap into that energy.
Yeah.
Now as maybe a more veteran martial artist or a seasoned fighter, whatever you want to like label that as, like I know that's a waste of energy for me, and it doesn't allow me to actually get what I want out of this.
Yeah.
For me, like I understand, like at least for me personally, like when I'm in that play flow state, like I'm gonna get the most out of it.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking, I'm allowing the creativity to flourish, and then I can lock back in.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I answered your question with that.
No, I think that's it. Like sometimes it happens in the moment, sometimes it's like intentional, sometimes it's like subconscious, right?
Yeah.
But I think like understanding like where you're more where you're getting the most value out of it is super important, right?
Yeah, for me, I get the most value on that side, and I think that's why I was just in the space of maybe I'm not fighting, but like I want to be at all the comp practices and this and that, because that's the level that I like to play at. And then eventually I was like, okay guys, I want to play too. Like, put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. You know what I mean? Type of vibe.
Yeah. Do you see yourself coaching more in the future?
I would love to coach in the future. I mean, I've coached before. Like, you know what I mean? Like, coached before. I've had seasons of coaching, and I knew it was something I wanted to lean into. Kind of going back to like, when I left the Dragons, and it's like, that was my focus. It wasn't on competing. I wasn't learning from a jiu-jitsu coach. It was like, I'm purely a coach. I'm running the Kajikemo program. I'm running a wrestling program, a boxing program, this and that. And I love it because I love martial arts, and I love teaching, and I love sharing my craft. And I would even like to create like lots of content around just that. Let me just do that. But then when I moved here, it was like, oh, I feel like the season I'm in right now is like being the competitor side or being the athlete or wanting to learn, whether it's like from you or from Barrett or whatnot. Like, let me be selfish, because for a time I wasn't selfish. It was the exact opposite. I just want to give. Here's what I've learned. This will help you on your path. And like, I already find myself going into that space. Like, let's say, for example, it's a Thursday class and I'm partners with Jaden. Even when I'm partners with Jordan and we're drilling and we're doing 1-3, we're doing this and that, like, I find myself multiple times in the round trying to critique them. Not like, hey, throw your kick like this, but like, hey, bro, I'm open for this. Like, understand that there's an opening that you're missing.
Yeah.
Like, every time you're doing this, I'm having to high guard, which makes this available. Yeah. So I'm always already in that space.
Training vision,
Yeah, training vision, but like wanting to help them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like, say you talk about this younger person who is like just trying to like put the heat on everybody, put the smoke on everybody. Maybe the younger version of me, 100%. Like, when we're in the wrestling room or something like that and we're training, like, I want you guys to know that I'm the fucking alpha. Yeah. This is my circle. We're in a group together, but I'm the alpha here.
You want none of this.
You want none of this. I will fuck your shit up.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's a great example where it's like, when you're younger, there are no chinks in the armor. Do not show them anything. And then when you're a vet, it's like, explain to them the chinks in the armor so they get better, so they can help get you better. Right. Yeah.
Whereas now my MO is like very different. Like, I'm training with Jordan and a younger version of me be like, oh, he's also a bantamweight. Like, oh, what if we fight? You know, you go through all these fucking stupid things in your head. Yeah. You know, whereas like as older, it's like, I actually just want you to get better. Yeah. Because like, just as a person, it's almost like, you know, you talk about life is so short and what are you going to leave or what are you going to give or, you know, whatever it is. It's like, I would just love to help people. I'm not saying I'm the best fighter in the world, you know what I mean? But I'm pretty good at what I do. I've learned a lot of skills, and I'm also pretty good at articulating the things that I've learned. Yeah. So it's like, let me just pass this on. Yeah. Because there's going to become a point, like, I came out of retirement. I just fought at 39 years old, and I do feel like I have a few more fights in me. What will happen of that? Because I'm not fighting, say I have a few more fights. I'm not just going to fight for fucking shits and giggles. Like, I mean, I kind of did. I kind of just did that. It's a kind of paradox, but there was some energy to it. Yeah. Oh, it's a bigger show. It's San Diego, XYZ. Like, man, if I can get on a fight in Japan, 100%, I'll fucking fight whoever the fuck you want me to fight.
Send me a location.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be there. Yeah. But yeah, so like now it's like I just want to give back, and I feel like even having these conversations is a way of like giving back. These are the things that I've learned. Like, my perception is different, and hopefully someone who's listening can kind of take from it. You know, you go into these seasons. So, long answer short, yes, I do see myself coaching. I would love to lean into coaching energy, and it's probably sooner than I think. You know, like, there's going to be this crossover where like I'm not competing at the highest level anymore. I mean, I just competed at the highest level, but like there'll be a point where that's not going to happen anymore. You know, I'm not. That's just the nature of nature. You know what I mean? Like, you go through seasons in life, and you were this at one point, and now you're this, and you're evolving, and you're becoming different things. And I feel like, as human beings, we have to be okay with letting go of an older version of ourselves to become a newer version of ourselves. But a lot of people don't become the new version of themselves because they're holding on. They're holding on to something that doesn't allow them to evolve. And maybe that thing comes back, but in order for it to come back and with new life, you actually have to let it go. That's why I have the mentality of like, do I want to come right back to San Diego? Yeah, because this is where I want to be. I want to practice martial arts. I want to go to Thursday class and shoot the shit. I want to go study from Barrett. I want to film podcasts in the van. But I know that this next season of my life, whether it be just the 6 months where I'm like healing at home and I come right back, but in that time, if I say that for that 6 months, I'm like, I'm coming right back to San Diego. I'm coming right back to San Diego. I'm not allowing other opportunities to exist. What happens if during this time the podcast takes off and then right after I'm ready to go again, I'm just going on this long road trip? But that's not going to happen if I say like, no, I'm moving back to San Diego.
You kind of limit yourself.
You limit yourself.
Possibilities, right?
Right. And one of the possibilities can be go right back to San Diego. You obviously have the van. You already have your life. You know, like I'm welcomed at all the places, whether it's the training, whether it's my work. Like they're like, everybody wants me to come right back. So it's not like these doors are closed. But in order to really talk about like sucking the marrow from an experience or situation, it's like I actually have to let go of San Diego, even if I come right back. But I have to let go in order for the next evolution to actually take form. You know, and I feel like a lot of people, like I said, are scared because letting go is a hard thing to do, man. it's very easy to say like let go.
Yeah.
Of whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah, and I think these choices kind of define ourselves, right? So it's like on one hand, letting go is super important, but on the other hand, it's like you did not let go of martial arts, you know, during key moments that you could have let go.
Right.
So it's always about like, they're so difficult because like these things define us and they define our future. And sometimes we go down paths like maybe Gladiator Challenge for you or, you know, other things to where it was like, yeah, I think this one, it was a good experience. It was good that I did it. I understand why I did it, but also like, you know, maybe I should have went a different direction, right? So I think that's the great difficulty of life is how long do you hold on things for? What is your conviction on it? What is your why? Are your actions aligned with that thing? And then do you let it go to something else that's more interesting for you? Or do you lock onto something because you have to and you have this tenacity for it? You know, I think that's the biggest difficulty. So I think you kind of segued a little bit towards it, but because you're talking about this, that kind of brought in the podcast. But I would say like, what was your great, like, what was like the antithesis for, or what was like the great starting point for the podcast? Like, where you're like, I want to get this out of it. I want to have good conversations, have people hear it. I have cool people around me. Like, what was like the big like motivation behind starting the podcast?
Okay, so origin story, and we'll kind of finish with this just because I know that you got to teach class in 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Being aware of time and kind of what's happening, time and place. I don't say always, right? 'Cause we say we always, but it's like, did you want to do that when you're 5 years old?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
But like, I had been in a space of wanting to create content that had a little bit more substance to it. And in the beginning, I was creating content where it's just me and it's just a camera and I'm talking about whatever. Maybe I have a dialogue where it's like, oh, I'm just talking about perspective, or I'm talking about my experience with a fight. But then I realized even though I'm giving good information, it's like, it's almost harder to just like constantly come up with something, or like just, it's boring. You're just seeing me.
Yeah.
You know, like, cool, maybe some people like me, but it's like, do you really just want to watch this one dude and all you see is fucking him the whole time?
Yeah.
So I was like, during the pandemic, I launched this thing. I called it Martial Thought Masterclass instead of like martial arts, because it was almost about the psychology.
Yeah.
And I basically brought in some people that I trained with, like as if like these are some of my training partners or other black belts at the den, and we met every week on a Sunday. And my goal was like straight Miyagi Karate Kid, like I'm gonna teach you guys about martial arts, but from a very different perspective. I had just finished like some life coaching courses because I was getting into that space, and so I was learning how to coach differently through like questions or puzzles or games or just things to make them think versus saying like, this is black. Okay, well, tell me that's black. Like,
Yeah.
well, what is this? And why do you, like kind of that inquisitive approach? And so we would meet once a week and we would do some martial arts stuff for a couple hours. And then afterwards, we tried to podcast it, and all I had was like just one microphone, and we just kind of hand it like you're handing a conch over. You know what I mean? Like, all right, like today we did this. Like, what were your thoughts on what you discovered today? What did you learn about yourself today in the exercises we did? And then we basically had this dialogue where we sat around and talked about it. And I was like, whoa, that was really cool because you're hearing all these different perspectives.
Yeah.
And that was when I was still living in the Bay Area. And then, you know, that course finished because it was just like a couple months, you know. So I just did like a 8-week course type of vibe, which was really fun as a coach to like come up with content to share. Like it was all about abstract ideas, you know. I don't know what that is, but we're gonna hit record again over here.
That'd be fine.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
All this will be fine.
Yeah.
Hopefully all this content is being collected.
Clap. Yeah. So course was finishing after 8 weeks.
So the course finishing after 8 weeks, I had run this like mini podcast with just like very informal. And I actually have all of it. I was even recording some of the
you still have it?
exercises, some of it,
Okay.
like scattered throughout. But also the pandemic, so like people's schedules are weird, you know. Anyway, so like that was the first of like, whoa, that was kind of cool. It was like this informal podcast. There was like maybe like 8 of us just kind of handing around a mic. And I was like, that's the stuff that I want to share.
Yeah.
Right? Because the reason I called it Martial Thought, when I fought the first time, broke my leg, I created a blog called Martial Thought because I wanted to talk about deeper stuff of martial arts.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was really, the original idea of the podcast was only martial artists. I wanted to have conversation. That's kind of what you and I started with over there. Like, I want to talk about fighting. We were talking about like Bruce Lee stuff and this and that, and what's the purpose of technique, and like that's actually the content that I wanted to create it around to start. And then I realized that like I actually have more to give than martial arts. do I have a lot to give in that space? Yes, and I want to give in that space.
Yeah.
Like talk about coaching.
Yeah.
But it was like,
You don't
oh
want
man,
to limit it.
I don't want to limit it. You know, I'd love to have conversations with different types of people. Like I had my homie on the podcast yesterday, who I met while I was working at REI, which I was working there because I needed to meet people who were van lifers. Because I'm like, bro, you're about to live in a van. You don't fucking know nobody who lives in a van. Go work at REI. I'm sure you'll meet some people there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I did. I met him.
Yeah.
You know, and he also lives in a van currently.
Yeah.
And so to kind of highlight things like that, and like I thought we were going to be talking about van life the whole time. We ended up talking about divorce and healing and breakups and like all this random life stuff.
Like great conversation, but like more, expanded.
Expanded.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh man, like I want to have conversations with people, everyday people, to highlight that everyone is an everyday people. Like even if I were to have Dom on here and people view him as this UFC legend, which he is a UFC legend, right?
Yeah.
Like he actually is that.
Yeah.
You know, he's this celebrity. He's this, you know, commentator or whatnot. But to us, he's also just everyday people.
Yeah.
He's just Dom.
Yeah.
You know, and to be able to have conversations with someone like that, or you, or whoever it may be, and to show like humanity. We're talking about perspective. We're talking about sucking the marrow dry from experiences. We're talking about whys, and maybe we're using martial arts as a vessel to talk about those things. But those concepts and those psychologies, or, you know, locking in, or, you know, all these things, or letting go, like, these are all universal conversations. It doesn't really matter if you're into fighting, or if you're into business, or if you're into art, or if you're a photographer. Like, these are kind of things we all struggle with as human beings.
Yeah, they're common threads. Yeah.
And then so as I got into this van and I was being built out, it was like, all right, like I want to do the podcast in here because it's like, this is my home, and where else would I do it? I basically have a studio on wheels. And even still, it was still going to be about fighting.
Yeah.
You know, it was still going to be about fighting. And then as I got closer to the project, and also the evolution of myself and the people that I met along my journey, it was like, oh, there's actually more to give than just martial arts.
Yeah.
You know, like season 1 was really getting called Sun and Samurai, and it was going to be just all San Diego coaches and fighters and martial artists.
Sun and Samurai, that's a pretty cool name.
Right?
Yeah, San Diego. Yeah.
Exactly, like Sun and Samurai. Like there's a lot of that here.
Yeah.
A lot of sun and a lot of motherfucking badasses walking around that you don't even know.
Yeah.
They're fucking everywhere here.
Yeah.
And I might still do a season like that, you know, where I'm just highlighting fighters and I'm just highlighting coaches and things like that. But like I said, I realized like as this human being, I'm so much more dynamic. There's so many things that I do. I can bring in other writers, and now we're talking about writing. We're talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I have this space where I can do whatever I want with it. And why not bring in people first that I vibe with tremendously, you know, have a good relationship with, where I know that we can talk about cool things and like literally see where it goes.
Yeah.
And so that for me was the onset of the podcast, and now we are on day 2, freaking episode
Day 2 of filming, yeah.
Yeah, still figuring it out. GoPro's turning off. I'm like, you know, I don't even know what I'm doing. You know, hopefully the audio's capturing.
Yeah.
But again, you kind of sense some things, and you have some conviction of like, I can do this for a long term.
Yeah.
As if I'm just hosting a talk show. Even if I get out of the van, you know, I can still have a talk show somewhere. I can have a podcast somewhere. You know, I'm not going to be able to do this forever.
Yeah.
Will I be on the mat for my entire life? I'm sure I will.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I'm not going to be
But
on
the
the
pacing's
mat.
going to change.
But the pacing is going to
Yeah.
change. You know, how often, you know, and it's like, that is giving to me. The martial arts is giving to me. Like, it feeds my soul. How you talk about, like, being rejuvenated, spending time with your kids, kind of doing things like that. Like, it feeds your soul. Like, doing martial arts feeds my soul, but what if I want to feed other people's souls? And how can I do that? And I feel like this gives me a vessel to do that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool, man. Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is to be mindful of time. It is 10:10.
10:10. Yeah.
So you have class in 20 minutes where you get to yell at people.
Yes.
And tell them they suck. And that
Coffee
they're great
fueled.
also.
And that they're great also. Yeah. It's a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And although I plan to have you on the show multiple times, if you were to, I guess, leave the viewers with something, like what would you leave us with?
Ah, man. I feel like it's so hard to be like, be insightful. Go. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny, man. It's like it's all in stages. So I feel like if you would have asked me 10 years ago, it's like sacrifice would be like the key word. Like sacrifice for the things you want, you know? I mean, I think my main thing is like when people ask me about my job, it's like I love what I do, right? Blanket statement. Like, and in general, I feel so bad that people go through their entire lives having a job and they've never really been inspired by it. They didn't like define, and I think it's not for everybody because it's a double-edged sword. But there's a certain part of me that's like, it is unfortunate that some people like can't wait to clock out. They can't wait to leave. They can't wait to like for the weekend. And for me, it's like, I just love my job.
Yeah.
So I think, I think if you go through like the sacrifice on it, on the other side of it is like so much enjoyment and like fulfillment. So finding something that like you are passionate about, sacrifice for it, and it's like worth it in the end. I think for mine, it's like I'm finally hitting that stage where like it's just worth it and it's fulfilling so much more because I went through that stage of like sacrifice.
Right.
So I think it's like no matter what you're picking, like know why you're doing it, know your why. Force the conviction, not force the conviction, but like force yourself to understand why you're doing it, and if it's for you, and if it's not, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
But if it is, like really put the fucking time in, like the podcast, like the fighting, like that's a common thread, which is like do the work of understanding what the fuck you're doing and why you're doing it.
Right.
Because otherwise, like, you're just going to be this like leaf in the wind kind of blowing everywhere.
But
if you really put in the time of like understanding why you're doing it, like understanding like, forcing yourself to have these tough, sober conversations about it, then I think that's what brings conviction, and that ultimately is what brings fulfillment and happiness.
Bars, you guys hear that?
I blacked out.
He's like, you want to be insightful? Okay, well then let me tell you about, but yes, everything that he just said, it almost literally comes back to like knowing your why.
Yeah.
Knowing your why, and that's really the most important because you don't want to waste your life.
Yeah.
Again,
It's too short.
Waiting
Man.
to clock out, like, do your best to enjoy every day. But in order to do that, you have to know your why. You have to know what you're doing to create a life where you get to do that. You get to come coach every day. And I know you love it. You know what I mean? And I know you would be here, like you said in practice before, like, man, if I won the lotto tonight, like I would still be here tomorrow because this is what lights me up. This is my passion. This is what I love doing. This is how I would spend my time because I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, find something you love, make the sacrifices for it, and fucking get after it.
It's worth it.
Yep. Right on, bro.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Good times, man.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah.
What am I doing?
You can just exit. Yeah. We don't know what we're doing. Nobody knows what we're doing.
Just take the pull stuff off.
Yeah. Let's open this and get some air in here. How about that? Yeah. So as you can see, we are in the parking lot over here at Steel. Yeah. Oh, your shoes are on this side though.
Let's do it again. And then we're walking.
We're just gonna pretend like his shoes were right here the whole time. Yeah. Hell yeah, bro. That was fucking rad.
That was awesome, man.
Let's get this little video right here. Look at this. This is all, we're here. Just finished the podcast. Boom. Steel MMA. Gangsta. Gangsta. All right, dude, I'm gonna catch you in there.